Hey everybody, I'm Tara from Crooked Row, and today we're going to go over 4 things you need to know to have abundant blueberries. One of the things that I think that people forget is that blueberries, once they're established, they're super hardy, but getting them there can be a little bit of a, you need to know some tricks of the trade. So hang tight, and I'm gonna get you down at my blueberries, and we're gonna go over how to take care of them seasonally. Let's get started. Here we are at my beds, and there is, sorry if there's wind, I apologize, but so there is these beds need cleaned up. I have my blueberry bushes, plus I have strawberries in here, and I'm just gonna go through and kind of clean up the area. But the very first thing that we probably need to talk about is pruning. Pruning is such a big deal, especially, I mean, it always is. Pruning promotes growth. It's really good to prune everything, even if it's just a little bit. There's a saying, they say, it's better to prune a little than not at all. And that is so true. But any kind of dead, damaged, disease, things need to be pruned out. And but actually, even if there isn't a lot of dead, damaged, or diseased, you want to kind of prune. There's differing minds about this, but in your branches, some people like, you know, 4 branches that are great. Some people like up to 10. I think it depends on how big the plant is. But so I'm going to get in at each bush, each blueberry bush, and we'll kind of like, I'm going to take you through the pruning process for each of these 4, and or maybe not actually, and just go through the differing things to have really good fruit production. So let's go in on that. Okay, we mostly have this bed cleaned out. We will still need to do a little bit more cleanup in it, but it's good enough for what we're doing right now. So, okay, before we even get started, I just want to show you. So before I start pruning, I try to mark where the drip line of this plant will be. And I do that because we'll fertilize afterwards. So I'm marking that out. Okay, that's marked. Now, looking at this tree, so we have a few issues. This branch is wrapping around this new branch. So that one will definitely need to come out. If I had wanted to salvage this at all, I could potentially leave these, but I think I'm going to take this whole thing out. Just so that there's no issues with this. You see this pink branch coming out, and then here is the older branch, and you can tell because it's brown. This branch too is, we're having some trouble with these 2 right here crossing. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of this first, and then I'll reassess the bush. Okay, so because that one curls around, I'm going to go ahead and snip that off. Ooh. So you want to look at your tips too. Like this is it's tiny, but it's a little dark tip. So you want to take that off. Anything that looks like dead or dark, you can go ahead and snip that off. And this, I'm going to leave that on. I'm going to snip the end of this one. So your new wood usually does not produce. Everything's produced on old wood. And so you want to keep your cane. So you'll have ones that will stick around for about 5 or 6 years. Those branches will produce for 5 or 6 years. But this, by bringing it down and snipping off old wood and letting a lot of the nutrition come to these new canes, or not canes, branches, I think that it does create bigger fruit. So that is really important. You can have a lot of tiny ones, or you can have less fruit, but they're bigger. So I would rather have larger fruit. So before we do, actually, I want to show. So I went ahead and especially like there's little tiny little, I don't even know if they're like just tiny branches, but they're about this big. I don't even know if you can see that. And they just tend to grow right here in the center. And clip all that out so that there's lots of airflow. You want tons of airflow in the center. It's kind of that way with everything though. Your berries, your trees, but we'll move on to the next one. Here is our second one. And as you can see, like right in the center, there is a ton of activity going on. So we need to go in there and see what can be taken out and what can't. That should be good for that one. Okay, so this tree is or bush is a lot more substantial. You can actually see that it is taller than the rest. I think this is the Patriot blueberry bush. It has a really nice color to it too throughout the year. So I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna clean this up like I did the other ones. And I'm gonna pick out which ones I want to stay. I see some damage like over here on this one. That back one might have some damage too. So I might take those two out and just clean up the center. Okay, so that last cut was sort of unexpected. I took it right out of the center. It was a new branch even. I did that though because I really don't want them growing up like right in the center. We kind of want airflow through there. So I went ahead and alleviated that. So now we can go up here to the top and that's dead. But I think all the other ones look pretty good. The second thing that you want to do though is you want to fertilize. And you do have to be careful because blueberries are acid loving. And so you do want to, utilize acidifier with espoma. You'll produce lots of green growth, especially if it's heavy in nitrogen. You'll produce lots of green growth, but you won't produce berries. I had blueberry bushes for a long time and I was not getting berries. And then I switched and started using espoma acidifier. And there's an argument about whether to use, is it aluminum sulfate or to acidify the soil? I don't like to use aluminum for anything. So I use the espoma acidifier and it works really good. So now I'm going to go around. You want to put your acidifier or fertilizer, whatever you got. Holly tone would work pretty good around blueberries. You can use different things. Just make sure that it's not going to change the acid level in your soil, because this bed was made with peat moss and a little bit of cow manure. So I mean, you buy the peat moss for a reason, and one of the reasons is it's acid, or it might be actually neutral, and then you put the acidifier in it. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the acidifier around each one. I use 2.5 cups for each plant because they're established plants, and then I will water that in. So let's get started. So that was me watering in the acidifier, but that brings us to number 3 with my dirty fingers is water. Water is so important, especially for the first few years, but always important for really any berry or fruit, but especially these blueberries. Like, I noticed that they really respond to water. And I mean, I wouldn't say to overwater them, but I mean, if you see any kind of stress in that plant, make sure it is watered, make sure it's moist. And if you don't have a way to get water to them, then I would say limit the amount of blueberries that you're actually going to grow and hand water them. I mean, it's that important. I mean, if you're not going to get water to your blueberries, there's not a point in growing them. So water is definitely tip number 3. Okay, well, so on to our tip number 4 and our final. Actually, it's not our final. I'm going to give a little bonus too, but our 4th tip for blueberries is to mulch them. And you can use whatever mulch you want. You can use, some people are very religious about using pine needles. Pine needles are fine to use. They think that it adds acidity. Once a pine needle falls from the tree, it no longer is acid. So, but you can still use them. People do. I think it's like a tradition. We use hardwood mulch that we get from arborists. That works wonderfully and breaks down into great soil. So I definitely suggest using mulch. It will retain the moisture in the soil. If you use a hardwood mulch, really if you use anything organic, even leaves. So even if you want to use, I think leaves are a wonderful option too. If you have some people use leaf mold, but you could also take leaves and mow them over with a lawnmower and just collect what's left over, you know, just so it's a little bit fine. And then you can use it as well. The whole point is retaining moisture. I mean, it's just an added benefit that it benefits your soil. So it also helps with microbial beneficial bacterias. And so anything that we have put wood chips on, it gets that white, so it gets this like mycelium? Well, yeah, it can be mycelium, but it gets this bacteria in it, and it's like white. It's like a real thin, fine substance throughout your wood chips. It actually happens in leaf mold too. And it is beneficial bacteria. They're finding that these beneficial bacteria do just about everything. And it helps the roots. It helps the roots uptake vitamins. It's so good. It's such a wonderful practice to get into. So definitely mulch your blueberries. Well, there you have it. The bed looks fantastic. All 4 of those tips will help you be very successful and get plenty of blueberries. But I wanted to throw in one final tip. And I feel like this is the best tip anyone ever gave me. And that is pick all the blooms off of your plants for the first 2 years. Because remember, blueberry plants are perennials. And so, let's see, it's that you get them and they're asleep, and then they creep, and then the 3rd year they leap is the saying. And but when you get them, they're going to be asleep. And so, but they will produce some flowers, and a lot of people think that that's time for them to start harvesting. And I know this because I've had so many failures with blueberries. Like, honey, how many times was it? Like 6 years we tried to grow blueberries and couldn't. I mean, we failed every single year. And then someone suggested to me to take 2 years to pick off all of the blossoms and just let the plant, you know, root in and grow. And then the other tips that I told you, actually, we weren't doing either. But that taking off your blooms is substantially helpful in rooting your plant in and making sure that you're gonna get absolutely fantastic harvests. So I just wanted to come and make a video, and while I am fertilizing and cleaning up my blueberry beds, I wanted to make sure that the big box stores and a lot of the planting stores, they're gonna have blueberries for sale. So if you come home and you have blueberries, still use all of these options. Or if you already have blueberries, this is an every year thing. You follow these instructions every single year. So remember, if we can follow all the steps to successful blueberry harvest, anybody can. Thanks. Bye.